And away we go. Thursday edition of the show. All across America, SportsMap Radio. Worldwide, the SportsMap Radio app. Oh, baby, it's good to be back for another night. And finally, there's so much damn bad news in the world. How great was it to wake up this morning and get the news that Britney Griner was coming home? Unless you're one of these jackasses on social media who's just got to make everything political and put everything on, some side of the aisle and choose sides and us versus them and, everything's evil and all this. Unless you're one of those people, this was... or a pass rusher for the Dallas Cowboys. You know what? To his credit, though, he quickly pulled it back and basically apologized for it. I mean, it's a lot harder to crush a guy when they put something ignorant online or something that has a dosage of naivete, if you will, and then somebody educates them quick and they're like, oh snap, I gotta get that off, or I have to go on and correct it. He could have stuck with his guns and just, sort of gone crazy. But you know what? I give him credit. He at least pulled it back in a day and age where a lot of people don't. Kyrie Irving. So kudos to Micah Parsons for that. But it was just so awesome to wake up this morning and see that news. And again, I'm a victim of being on the West Coast. Yesterday, it was Aaron Judge. The world already had known like an hour and a half earlier that Aaron Judge had been signed by the Yankees, 9 years, $360 million. Thank you very much. And I was just finding out like an hour and a half after it happened because I had just gotten out of bed to walk my dog. Same thing this morning. Britney Griner was already on a plane home. And I'm like the last to know because I get out of bed at, 8 o'clock and it's already 11 a.m. on the West Coast. We got Thursday Night Football. We've got Griner talk, live betting, whole lot to do. Stay with us. How are you, my man? Really? What'd you do? You have health insurance. Go to a doctor. I've had so many issues with my feet for so long. Between arthritis in the bottom of my right foot from this accident I was in as a kid. I have gout. I've had like gouty arthritis in my second toe on my right foot for the last like 6 months. It's just always something. Oh, it's the worst. Yeah, I got gout. You're a gamer. Going at it even at 70%. Look at you. I'll take 70% of Brian McDonald any day. Yeah. Oh, that was fun. Oh, let me hear this ad for a second. I'll tell you why in a second. They're still using the $30 off. It's $40 off. They had me change these ads, and I'm still hearing the old ads. I don't know. I'm going to have to talk to somebody, though. Maybe it's for next week. I don't know. Might be. And by the way, for those that were just listening to the commercials, I'm going to throw this in. Omaha Steaks, proud sponsor of the cash-in, and this literally is because we were running right up till showtime tonight. If you're watching on the Twitch stream and can watch the cash-in, which you can Monday through Friday, 7 to 10 p.m. Pacific, I'm actually holding up an Omaha Steaks burger that's under that cheese and bacon. So I've got a burger here that I'm going to be eating at some point here during commercial breaks. But that's an Omaha Steaks burger, and my God, it is amazing. It's the first time I've tried the burgers, and it's fantastic. And the reason I bring that up, not because I'm trying to give them a free extra bit of promotion, but right now at omahasteaks.com, 50% off site-wide, which you may have heard in the ad. But what you didn't hear, because it hasn't been reflected in the commercials yet, it's now if you use the cash-in promo code on the website, you get 50% off everything on the site. That's already built into the site. But if you use my promo code at checkout, cash-in, CASHIN, you get an additional $40 off. Not $30, but $40 off your order. It's insane right now. I've had friends who have gone and looked at it. I've had listeners text me say, oh my God, like the prices are insane when you have the 50% off, then the $40 off. Go to omahasteaks.com. A minimum purchase may be required to get that $40 off, but trust me, it so beats going to the grocery store, and the quality is insane. Just wanted to make sure I got that out there. All right, the phone number as we go through the show tonight, 1-800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. Tweet at the show throughout at the back page. The Thursday night football game we will keep tabs on. It's 13-3, I think, still in that game. Still 13-3, Brian. Brian McDonald is back on the board tonight. Okay. Thank you. Because it's a Thursday night football game. What do you expect? Well, he didn't start. He did not start. John Wolford handled the first drive. Yes. We're all about accuracy on this show. This is not Fox News. So, anyway, Brian McDonald, producer, engineer extraordinaire, is running things for the next couple of nights for us in Houston. Good to have him back on the program. We love Austin, but we love us some Brian McDonald. I had an old boss. I'll throw his name out there. I don't care. I hate the guy. Old boss of mine, Jack Silver was his name. He was my program director at NBC Sports Radio when I was there for a few years. Oh my God. Go and look up, if you ever want to laugh, go look up what Adam Carolla wrote about Jack Silver in his book. Like, you can Google it, and it's all you'll need to know about Jack Silver. But he used to always say to me, and it's just, it's the phony, typical BS stuff you get from many radio program directors. Not all, but many. He would always say, oh, I love being in the Jason Page business. We love Jason Page. I want to be in business with Jason Page. And I was just like, okay, dude, really? Hey, how much of my show did you listen to? So anyway, just a little anecdote about Jack Silver, who nobody in America cares about. So anyway, I woke up this morning and I saw the Britney Griner news, and it actually, it's going to sound hyperbolic. It really isn't. I actually took an extra breath when I saw the news because I was so shocked. I don't think any of us really saw this coming. And that's why you keep negotiations secret. It's why you don't play this stuff out in the press with the hopes that it's going to pressure somebody to do anything. Like the Russian regime was going to do anything because CNN decides to run a report on it. They don't care. You can't even find CNN in Russia. So what do they care? So it was kept under wraps. It was very quiet. And then all of a sudden we find out today, Britney Griner is coming home in a prisoner swap for this arms dealer that had been in U.S. custody, arrested, convicted, all of that for, I think, 16 years, if I'm not mistaken, but I could be wrong on that number. I'm pretty close, I'm sure. A guy by the name of Victor Boot. So, when Griner's coming home, I'm in a great mood, and then I made the mistake of going on Twitter. Why'd you do it, Paige? First thing. Oh, my God. Yes, the first thing I did, Brian, is I said, I'm going to go on Twitter. And I always go in, first thing I do when I wake up in the morning, I hit either Facebook or I hit Twitter. And I went on Twitter and I hit the trending section. And of course, it was one of the top trending items. As soon as I click on it, one of the first things I see is Micah Parsons. And I'm like, why? Yes. Yeah. I know. And there's Micah Parsons criticizing the U.S. for bringing home Britney Griner. Oh, you left a Marine home and brought home Britney Griner? Nah. I mean, and I will give him credit. Almost immediately, somebody must have gotten to him and said, dude, do you know what you're tweeting? And here's a guy who's really one of the more popular defensive players in the league. Certainly, Dallas fans love him for what he's brought to that defense. But, and then one of the subsequent tweets, and I suppose I should, for the sake of accuracy, give people exactly what it is that he tweeted. So here it is. His exact tweet was. And, to his credit, he actually kept up. He said, wait, nah, we left a Marine? Hell nah. And that was while retweeting the Britney Griner, the news that Britney Griner was coming home and that Paul Whelan was about to mark his fourth year in custody. Then he followed that up with, I'll read it just to be accurate. My last tweet was no shot at Britney Griner. I'm super happy she's back home as she should be. I just have family who have served, and it's crazy to me the president wouldn't bring him home too. I'm the furthest thing from a Trump. Whenever anybody starts a sentence with, I'm the furthest thing from a Trump supporter, they're a Trump supporter. Yeah, I'm not racist, but I'm not a fan of Biden either. He put in a tweet. Then he wasn't done. Just spoke to some people that I respect and trust. I should have been more educated on the topic and not tweeted out of emotion for my family and others who have served. For that, I apologize. Also, if what I'm told about the attempts to bring retired Marine Paul Whelan home are true, then the best outcome was accomplished. I pray Mr. Whelan comes home, but I'm extremely happy for Britney and her family. I am not too prideful to admit when I've made a mistake. So look, I'm giving you the entire context. I'm not taking anything out or putting anything else in. That's what he put. That's what he tweeted. I give him credit because he almost immediately, well, I won't say immediately, but within like 90 minutes, he made sure to correct himself and get the right information out there. And again, it's why when you're in a public situation or you're somebody that's revered or you're a professional athlete, even in my case, you have to be careful to have all the facts before you say or tweet something. Because even if he had deleted it, somebody would have screenshot it and it would have been all over the place anyway. So it wouldn't have really mattered. But I'll give him credit. He said the right thing. He did the right thing. All right, enough of Micah Parsons. Nobody cares about that aspect of the story. The good news is that Britney Griner is coming home. And you know me, generally on this show, we're not going to talk a lot about women's sports. Not because I don't love them, because anybody who knows me knows that I do. I grew up in Connecticut. UConn women's basketball is the flagship for women's college basketball. It is the shining star on a hill. It is as good as it gets. So I'm all about women's athletics and even beyond UConn women's basketball. Big proponent of women's athletics. But at the same time, we don't generally talk about it on this show unless most times it's a negative story or something that is salacious, because the majority of people don't care. They don't watch in the numbers that they do for men's sports. I wish that wasn't the case. And I know some people could argue, well, you have a platform and you could elevate it with what you do. Yes, but if nobody listens to my show, then advertisers don't buy ads on my show, and I'm living under a bridge in 6 months. So I don't have the luxury of always and in every instance standing on my principles. Because if I had it my way, I would dedicate a fair chunk of time to something like the WNBA or Women's World Cup or, whatever it is that we talk about when it comes to women's sports. But this today is a great reason to shine a light on the fact that while a lot of leagues like to talk about the social good they do and really try to elevate issues, the NFL has a week every year where guys could put whatever they want on their cleats, or they can put a message on the back of their helmets. Great. The WNBA, from a social, positive social change standpoint, from the standpoint of trying to create change in America, and really be involved in these sorts of issues. From that standpoint, the WNBA blows them all away. What they did to basically force the owner, Kelly Loeffler, who was one of the owners of the Atlanta Dream, to sell the franchise. The players did that because the media barely covered it. The players forced that move. What they did in terms of trying to get people to the polls in 2020, the WNBA players did that. What you've seen in terms of WNBA players and how they constantly kept the drumbeat for Britney Griner. Get her home. They did everything you could possibly imagine to use the platform, as limited as it may be, relative to the number of people that watch it compared to what we see in a lot of men's sports, and the ratings being what they are. And WNBA ratings have actually gradually increased over the years to a point where I think you see it more on ABC and ESPN. But what they've done in terms of trying to be a voice for change in America and making a difference, this is just the latest example of it. And I think everybody at the WNBA has to be applauded for their role in keeping the pressure on the Biden administration and making sure that Americans didn't forget that this woman who brought basically a vape pen over there with some, cannabis oil in it, was sitting in a prison for almost a year, sent away to a camp, a penal colony. And who knows what the long-term effects of all that are going to be on Britney Griner. And that becomes eventually the next part of, and the next chapter in her story, is what happens next for Britney Griner. And obviously we're all going to give her time to breathe and even time to grieve. She lost a year of her life. And you don't get that back. There's nothing you can do that gets you that time back. Not for her, not for her wife. There's nothing that gets you that time back. So all right now I want is for Britney Griner to be able to just take a breath and enjoy that, air when she gets off the plane in the U.S. and is able to kind of just get a hug and be around her family and be around her friends. And then we'll see what the next chapter in her life is. Is it advocacy for political prisoners? People in captivity? Is it deciding to play in the WNBA again? I wonder if she will. She's 32 years old. She's played a lot of basketball. She's missed an entire year. But it's a happy ending to a story that really could have gone one way or another once she was in a Russian penal colony. And kudos to the Biden administration for eventually figuring out and doing whatever it took to get her back. 1-800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. If you want to tweet at the show, please do, at the back page. If you got a thought on the Griner story, I'd love to hear it. Just make sure you actually know what you're talking about when you call in, or I'm going to call you out. 1-800-224-2004. We'll update you on Thursday Night Football. We'll get into the live betting. Shalise Manza-Young will join us later on in the hour to talk about the Griner story, but also about the Washington Commanders story, which if you don't know, you better ask somebody. I'll explain what I'm talking about there as we continue. I'm Jason Page. It's the Cash In on SportsMap Radio. You like that? You didn't know? You better call somebody. Not detailed. I mean, I've seen a couple things with him over the last month or so, but why? What's he doing? No, I have not. Really? I'm amazed at the shape that dude is still in. Like, some of these guys don't age very well. That guy is aged like fine wine. Oh, Road Dogg looks awful. Road Dogg looks road worn. Yeah, he really could. It's amazing. Yeah, you're right. You're right. That segment, by the way, all the Britney Griners part of it, I want that in the podcast. Lead off the podcast with that, in fact. Okay. Of course you did. Jesus, my God. Hard times, huh, man? Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Yes. Fat dog. He is. He is. Yeah, that's great. My God, has anybody come out of the winter meetings looking worse than John Heyman? I know. Well, also the Xander Bogaerts thing that he flubbed. He was, he's like, the Red Sox are close to having a deal done with Xander Bogaerts. That was yesterday morning. I don't think so, man. I think he's getting used. I think that's the issue. I think he got used in the Judge story to get the Yankees back to the table. And then I think he got used by Bogaerts people. That's what I think happened. It's not. And what do you do? I mean, you got your sources. You think you're good. Sure. It's tough. It's a tough situation. They tell me I'm not supposed to eat on mic, but let me tell you something. I'm just going to keep telling people. Omaha Steaks is a proud sponsor of the show this holiday season. And I swear to you, I have never had burgers cooked at home as good as these Omaha Steak burgers. Oh, my God. McDonald, I'm telling you. So good. It really is like an out-of-body experience. They're so good. It's still 13-3. Wasn't it 13-3 at the half in this Raiders game, too? Oh, my God. It's so bad. The only good side for Al Michaels is he literally had to, like, drive down the street to get to the game tonight because he lives in L.A. He lives in the hills over there, so it's not an issue for him. But, man, God, I hope so. Yeah, you know what? Listen, Brock Purdy may wind up being one of the Brock Purdy could be a Disney movie in the making for all we know right now. To go from Mr. Irrelevant to probably the most relevant quarterback in the NFL at this point in time. I mean, it's a pretty amazing rags to riches sort of story that here he is in a position, and Kyle Shanahan's like, you know what? Ride or die with Brock Purdy and Josh Johnson as our quarterbacks. I mean, it's insane what this organization must know about him and what Kyle Shanahan, listen, say what you want about Kyle Shanahan, and I know some 49er fans have their gripes. The guy knows something, and he's willing to go with Brock Purdy and is comfortable with it. And they could have just as easily gone with Baker Mayfield. They could have just as easily said, we're going to start Josh Johnson. And right now, barring falling on his face against Tampa Bay, Brock Purdy's going to be the starting quarterback of the San Francisco 49ers for as long as their season continues. And he's got enough games between now and the end of the regular season. And this is going to be a playoff team one way or another. That defense is just so good that, he's going to get an opportunity to improve and grow as a quarterback, and fans are going to have to be patient. But Brock Purdy's going to be the man. By the way, we got breaking news. We need a breaking news sounder. No, I really didn't. It's like the high school TV you were telling me about filming during the break. It's just bad. The Mets have brought back one of their own. Hey, they actually got somebody other than Justin Verlander, of course. The Mets signing Brandon Nimmo tonight to an 8-year oh my God, the money that's being dished out in this baseball offseason. Oy freaking vey. The Mets bring back Brandon Nimmo, their outfielder, 8 years, $162 million. No, stop it. I'm not saying they got everybody. I'm just saying they are about to get Carlos Rodon, it sounds like, unless like somebody's being used in the media. It's not like that's never happened before. Nimmo this past season, 16 home runs, 64 runs batted in, hit 274, struck out 116 times in 580 at bats, 159 hits, 102 runs scored. He's been a nice player for the Mets. So they bring back Brandon Nimmo. They also add some bullpen help. David Robertson, the former Yankee, former everything. Yes, he did. 1 year, $10 million. Oh, my God. I mean, relievers. Remember when relievers used to get nothing? What is going on? But no, what did they bring back? Oh, my God. What is going on? The money in baseball. I mean, wow. The money in baseball. Oh, my God. I mean, it's insane. When David Robertson at this stage of his career is getting $10 million a year. Oh, by the way, Connor McDavid makes $7 million a season. If you're in the NHL, you've got to look around at packed stadiums for games. You've got the Winter Classic. You've got TV deals with TNT and TBS and ESPN. And you're Connor McDavid making $7 million a year. Like, for freaking crying out loud. What do NHL players have to do to get paid? Where's the money going? You can't tell me their TV deals are that much smaller in terms of the amount that they get, that Connor McDavid makes $7 million a year. I mean, what's the... No, they had NBC. No, but they had NBC for years. No, there was more than that. Highest paid hockey players. Let's see. Highest paid hockey players in the league. You ready? NHL's highest paid players this year. I need a good chuckle. Let's see. Really? They're going to make me scroll through one of these things? All right. Connor McDavid. I got to go back. This, it's like, if you make me go through a picture book to look at a story, I want to punch you in the kidneys. Yeah, I really do. I want to punch you in. I want to punch you in the kidneys when I got to do stuff like this. All right, here's the breakdown. Tyler Seguin, he's Dallas Stars. You know him. 8 years, $78 million. That's less than $10 million a season. No, that's not the highest. 12.5 for McDavid's average contract is 12.5. But 12.5 is about the highest paid hockey player I see. Drew Doughty of the Kings makes $11 million. Like, it's insulting what these guys make. It's absolutely nuts. Shalise Manza-Young on the Commanders and Britney Griner. We're coming back on the cash-in. Stay with us. It's nuts. It's absolutely nuts. I mean, you're talking $11 million. Nathan McKinnon's 8-year, $100 million extension with the Avs makes him the highest average paid player in NHL history. Wow. I mean, that's it. Yes. Like, what is going on here? Oh, man alive. Wowie zowie. Middle relievers are making $10 million a year. Aging middle relievers. Wow. My God, I need that kind of dumb money. Wow. I mean, think about what aging NBA stars are even making. And then I'll tell you that Alex Ovechkin, who's about to become the leading goal scorer in the history of the league, is making an average of $9.5 million a year. Oh, my God. That's crazy. Wow. Oh, we got to score. It's 16-3. Exactly. Oh, I got to bring this interview up, don't I? Otherwise, yeah. See here. Let's see here. Rolling along on this Thursday edition of the show, and you know, with all the bad news that it feels like we're inundated with on a daily basis, it was so great to wake up on Thursday morning and the first alert on my phone, because again, I'm on the West Coast. Yep. So, we're good. 3 hours. I already had one. This is the second one. Nope. It's a little rarer. It's a little rarer than I would prefer. It might still be mooing. I don't know about that. In terms of living or dying, not sure. Rolling along on this Thursday edition of the show, and you know, with all the bad news that it feels like we're inundated with on a daily basis, it was so great to wake up on Thursday morning. And the first alert on my phone, because again, I'm on the West Coast. So you know, 3 hours of the day is usually done by the time I'm up and ready to walk the dog. No, even if it's 7 a.m., 7:30 a.m., it's already 10:30 a.m. on the East Coast. And by that time, Joe Biden had already spoken, and it was announced that Britney Griner was coming home in a prisoner swap with the Russians. It was a great way to start the day. And then I made the mistake of opening up social media. So I want to try and shine some light on this story. We did it. We're doing it in the second hour as well, strictly from the WNBA side of things. But I wanted to bring in Shalise Manzi-Young, who does a great job with Yahoo Sports. I also want to get her thoughts on what's going on with the Washington Commanders and the Congressional Committee and the news they put out, or the news they made on Thursday, talking about basically the obstruction of their investigation and how the NFL played a role in it. We'll get into all of that as well. Shalise, start with the Britney Griner story. This was a day all of us had been hoping for. Britney's coming home after nearly a year of being held as a political prisoner for what should have been a situation to be adjudicated quickly and painlessly. What was the first thing that went through your mind when you heard the news?
I was stunned. Yahoo, of course, has news and finance, but in terms of the Slack channels that I'm part of in our corporate Slack, I'm only part of sports channels. And I was driving home from dropping my girls off at school and saw a Slack notification that was it was from the POTUS Twitter account, the President of the United States. And I was like, why the heck are we putting POTUS in sports, right? And so I opened it just out of curiosity, and I saw it, and I immediately my breath caught in my throat and tears came to my eyes, and I've only been around Britney once. I was fortunate enough to be in Tokyo last summer and covered the women's gold medal basketball game, and she came through the mixed zone. So that's really only my only personal interaction with her, and it wasn't even personal, really. But just I've been so scared for her and for her family, and as a 6'9" Black queer woman in a country that has, made being gay illegal, isn't really a big fan of Black people. I was just terrified for her. I really was. And so to see that news this morning, it was so unexpected for pretty much everybody except a very few people within the Biden administration. And I'm sure Britney's wife knew since she was in Washington, D.C., but it was just so incredible and such a relief to know that she's coming home. And then, like you said, I also made the mistake of going onto Twitter and called my husband, and he was like, nope, you were thrilled that they released her. Do not let these people take your joy. Don't let these people take your joy. Just hang on to it. And so that's what I tried to focus on.
Well, I gotta admit, I was surprised, and maybe I shouldn't be. Maybe I'm just an endless hopeful person. I don't know. I was surprised how much negativity there was on social media from conservatives in particular. And I thought you might get your fringe, pardon the phrase, yahoos. I thought you might get your fringe, yahoos out there doing the normal trolling. But there was a lot more negative rhetoric than I had expected. And it was people saying things like, well, she kneeled during the anthem. She should go back to Russia. Or the next time she does it, they should send her back. I was surprised. I mean, were you?
No, I'm a Black woman. She's a Black woman. It's almost mandatory that we have to do everything we can to help and uplift others. And, writ large, this country doesn't care about us. And because she is tall and queer and Black, and she's, sort of gender fluid, she certainly does not fit a European standard of beauty. People didn't care, and also she expressed thoughts like kneeling and speaking up for Black people, calling the same type of thing that lots of WNBA players speak up for. Colin Kaepernick has been outcast from the NFL for. And so, that whole, well, she broke the law. Like, come on, yes, she broke the law. But if you've ever rolled through a stop sign, you also have broken the law. And would you spend 10 years in a penal colony for rolling through a stop sign and think that was okay because, well, you broke the law? No. And other people in Russia have gotten caught with as much, weed oil as she has and paid a fine, and that's it. and they wanted to make an example of her, and they did.
I have to say, it made me, not to go off too far on a field of what we're talking about, but I put up a Facebook post about it today, and I could have written much more than that. I probably could have written an entire column on it. It almost feels like in some regards we're irretrievably broken. Because you would think if there's one thing that could bring people together, it's, my God, we're getting one of our own home. And here it was. I don't know why I was expecting it, and it was nowhere to be found, and it made me profoundly sad when I saw that this morning. I don't know. Like I said, maybe I'm.
I think my dog feels the same way with all of that. No, there was a point today, and I've tried really, really hard to cut down on my Twitter usage because of things like this. And there was a point today where I was scrolling Twitter and I just started crying again because it was so much, as you said, like, oh, she should go back and, real verified, like actual human beings, not trolls, and they are trolls, and I use the term human being loosely for somebody like Seb Gorka, but, calling just the things that they said about her. And at the end of the day, she was in a horrible situation and she's home. And yes, of course our hearts break for Paul Whelan, but this is a both and situation. Yes, we would love to see Paul Whelan home with his family, but if the choice was between bringing home one American and bringing home no Americans, they brought home an American. But again, this is just another one of those days that highlights to Black women that nobody has our backs.
Nope.
Even a two-time Olympic gold medal winning basketball player who, if you don't care about anything other than she brought, athletic glory to the United States on the global stage, you still have no use for her.
Do you think, and we're talking with Shalise Manza-Young, Yahoo sports columnist who I'd love to talk to on days like this, do you think she plays in the WNBA again? Because at 32, having played a lot of basketball in her life, and having gone through this sort of ordeal, I was wondering if this takes her in a different direction in life. Maybe towards advocacy for other political prisoners. Maybe she keeps playing and does both because it gives her the bigger platform. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
My very first thought is, I just want her to be okay. We don't know physically, mentally what she's gone through, how long it's going to take her to heal from whatever she's endured over 264 days, I think it was the final tally, 284 days. But the other thing to think about is she actually had a prescription that was legal in the state of Arizona. The oil that she was taking was for chronic pain. So if she already was in pain at 32 years old, maybe her body had already started breaking down. I mean, being 6'9" as a woman, that's really tough physically. So I hope we get to see her play maybe just one more swan song season so she can be celebrated around the league. But I would completely understand if she just doesn't want to or can't.
Yeah, I agree with you. Shalise Manza-Young, our guest here in our 2-for-1 tonight on the show. On the Commanders in the NFL, House Congressional Committee released a scathing report. Basically says much of what we knew, the Commanders had a toxic workplace. Daniel Snyder knew it and allowed it. But it also implicates the NFL in trying to cover it up and suppress the information from an investigation into the matter. Was there anything that came out of the report that one way or another surprised you?
A little bit how much the NFL knew. I mean, I guess given how little faith I have that the NFL will ever do the right thing, I shouldn't be. But Roger Goodell, whenever he's in front of microphones, and I'm fond of calling it his, nighttime radio voice. BJs at night who are playing like yacht rock and stuff like that, and they come on, and that's the voice I think Roger Goodell uses. It reminds me of that. And whenever he stands there at Super Bowl State of the League press conference, or, the 2 or 3 other times he's in front of cameras, he just keeps telling, oh, I'm the father of daughters and I have a wife and I care so much about this. No, you really don't. You just don't. You allowed Dan Snyder to negotiate his own punishment? Really? Who does that? You protected him and made it so that, Beth Wilkinson's report, hours and hours and hundreds of thousands of dollars that the league spent on that investigation or whatever it was, it was an oral report. It didn't have, none of it had to be written so that the public couldn't see it. And then you use the guise of, oh, well, we promised the women, the participants who told their story, we protect them. Really? Like, none of us understand Jane Doe and, those kinds of things. And there aren't ways to write about what these women endured without putting their names out there. And then within the report, apparently it's in the NFL's own handbook somewhere, that having a toxic workplace like that isn't against the personal conduct policy anyway. So you're telling players, owners, GMs, coaches, whoever, that you can treat women however you want. If it costs us money, we might punish you for it. Or if it brings us some negative press, we might punish you for it. But really, we don't care about women. Go buy a pink jersey. It's so... I've been over the league for a really, really, really long time, and it's gotten harder and harder to dedicate Sundays to this sport, because the league, it's so gross and it's so unseemly, and they're not even, it feels like now they're not even trying. They're not even trying to pretend, like, you banished Colin Kaepernick and then George Floyd is murdered in the middle of a street in broad daylight in Minneapolis. And then Goodell goes into his basement and says, oh, we do believe Black Lives Matter. Oh, gee, thanks, Raj. We appreciate you saying that our lives have value. Yeah. But then what comes out a few months later is, oh, they were doing race norming and telling Black retired players that, well, yeah, your brains might be broken, but your brains weren't worth a damn anyway because you're Black. And of course your brain wouldn't be worth nearly as much. And now you've dragged these women and made these women beg and plead, the women who used to work for Washington, beg and plead with anybody who will offer them a platform to talk about what they dealt with and what they endured. And you just shrug your shoulders and stand in front of the camera and say, oh, well, we were trying to protect these women. No, you weren't. You're trying to protect Dan Snyder, who is a verifiably terrible human being and was a verifiably terrible human being before we knew that he did all of these things to the women in his workplace.
I'll finish with this because I only got about 30 seconds. I wish that some way, somehow, the antitrust exemption could be stripped, because aside from that, I don't see anything that provides an impetus for change.
Right. And there's so many, they listen to the loud minority of people. Look what they did to Colin Kaepernick. Completely ignored the fact that there were plenty of military people who said they understood why he was doing what he was doing. But this loud minority of people, racist people, and now Colin Kaepernick had his career stripped of him. And they listen, but look where a lot of them donate their money, politically, and we get a big idea of why they do what they do.
Shalise Manza-Young, I always love these conversations. I always wish they were longer. I keep saying it. I would love to do more with you in the future. I always appreciate your time. Thanks for coming on tonight, and we'll talk again soon.
You bet. Have a great night.
We'll come back and wrap up the hour next. All right, getting set to wrap up hour number 1. I don't know where it went, but it's gone. We got a Rams touchdown? You know, as bad as some of these Thursday night games have been, there's always been a dramatic ending. Like, it could be 7-6 the whole way, but the end will wind up being, and you know what's going to happen. It's the NFL, man. I think they're in for a touchdown. Yep, Rams touchdown. So they're about to get this to within 7 or 6, and there's still plenty of time left. And let's not forget, it's the Raiders. We've blown so many games late. I mean, if anybody's going to lose this game, that it's going to be the Raiders. I mean, you can count on it. You can set your watch by it. Thank you again to Shalise Manza Young for joining us from Yahoo Sports. She is so talented, a really gifted columnist. Longtime NFL writer with the Boston Globe. She covered the Patriots for years. I just love talking to her. Another hour of the cash-in right around the corner. Don't you go anywhere. I'm Jason Page. This is SportsMap Radio. Am I? Yeah, it's 16-9. I think they're reviewing it. Yeah, they're reviewing it, but he got in. Yeah. Yeah, he did. Oh, it's 3:19 left, though. Problem is the Rams only have one timeout. See, you still kick it deep, don't you? One timeout, 2-minute warning. Or do you give yourself 2 chances with the onside kick and then the timeouts? No? No, yeah. Well, I don't know if they... if they don't get the first down, it's going to be a 50-plus yard kick. Some teams might opt to punt it. And then if they miss the field goal, you're getting it at midfield. I don't know. I'm curious to see what they do. Is he? He was playing earlier in the game. Okay. This has been like one of the greatest baseball off seasons so far. It really has. No, of course I would. It's been busy. I mean, last night we had like 5 minutes left in the show, and I had to announce the Bogarts thing. I was like, oh my God. Like, nobody saw that coming. And they're not done. Oh, I love it. It's great. Give him a big shit burger. It's just nuts, man. These teams must be printing money. But it's always the same old suspects. Like, you feel bad because you don't hear anything. The Brewers aren't doing anything. The Royals aren't doing anything. The Reds aren't doing... Like, there's so many teams that are just doing nothing. It's the haves and have-nots. It's, it's a problem for baseball. I was actually going to look at that. I'm glad you reminded me. I mean, I got it right here. I'm looking at the Yankees moved up a little. They were plus 950. See, now mine is Astros, Dodgers, Yankees, Mets tied, Padres, Phillies tied with the Braves. Then it's Blue Jays. Prejudge. Yeah, this is FanDuel. Okay, Rams just burned their final timeout. 3:14 to go. Second down coming up. Tell you a funny thing about that 3rd and 1 coming up. All day I was getting bombarded by this sports handicapper. You know, I always get these sports handicapping texts. People were like, I've got a lock. And I must have gotten 4 or 5 messages from this guy saying, I've got information and the pick is. And at the very end, he finally said, the pick is the under. And he may have been spot on. Another hour of the show starts right now. Wow, we got a 4th down coming up. 4th down and 1 for the Raiders. Are they punting? No, they're going to go for it. After the 2-minute drill. 2-minute warning, I should say. So, 2-minute warning in Los Angeles, which might as well be Las Vegas because it feels like there's more Raider fans than Ram fans there. I don't know how the Rams fix this situation, but I mean, Ram home games, for the most part, are just neutral site games for them. Gorgeous stadium, all that's great. It's just neutral site. And a lot of the same thing goes for the Chargers. These just become neutral site games because there aren't no real Los Angeles Rams fans left from when they were originally there. And Charger fans from San Diego, while some may schlep up there, they're not. There's just not the same engagement. Not the same feelings. Wow, they're punting. Rams are going to get it back. Down 16-10 and 2 minutes to go. No timeouts. Wow. And I was just saying this before the top of the hour to Brian. Brian McDonald, our producer, engineer extraordinaire, doing the show out of Houston. These Thursday night games suck, and they're boring for, 2.5 hours, but you always get a great final half hour to these games. You always get some drama somewhere. I mean, it's kind of wild. I mean, Baker Mayfield was playing for Carolina 6 days ago. He was on the roster. And he's on a... Yes! He hasn't even introduced himself to all his teammates. You're talking about you're talking about getting on a plane with the playbook that was sent to you by email that you've got to go through while you're flying across the country from Charlotte to Los Angeles, hopefully not in coach, because that's a miserable flight. And then you're literally playing. You might as well, for all intents and purposes, be starting. Wow, they start on their own too. Good luck. We'll come back, tell you what's going on with the Raiders and the Rams. I'm Jason Page. Another hour of the cash-in. Stay with us. SportsMap Radio. Come on, I want to see Mayfield drive him down. It'd be awesome. That's what the NFL gives us all the time. Let's see if it holds up here. Great throw. That's 4 down territory. 3rd down and 2. Oh, it'll be awesome. I mean, there's zero buzz in that stadium. Like, the Rams have the ball. You think people will be going nuts? Nothing. Uh-oh. Intercepted. Oh, flag, though. No. Right. Pass interference on the Raiders. And fans are booing, which tells you there's a lot of Raider fans there. I'm going to say it's 60-40 Raiders. Oh, God. Oh, he got popped. Oh, it's a flag. It's going to be it's going to be roughing the passer. Oh, my God. This is amazing. Josh McDaniels' look on his face says it all. Unsportsmanlike conduct after the play. Oh, my God. I just read Josh McDaniels' lips. He goes, that's bullshit. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Baker Mayfield's going to author this game-winning drive, and everybody's going to go bananas in Los Angeles. Well, the 40% of the crowd that's Rams fans. This is insane. They're driving, and we'll see what happens here over the final. Oh, my goodness. They're all the way down to the Raiders 30. Drive started on their own 2. 2 penalties, 1 pass interference penalty against the Raiders, then an unsportsmanlike conduct. Only the Raiders can do this to their fans. Oh, my God. And they still got tons of time. They're inside the 25. This is insane. They got to spike it, though. Oh, my goodness. Wild ending to this game. I mean, the Rams look dead the whole game. They're down 16-3. They get what you would normally call a garbage touchdown to make it 16-10. And now they've got the football 2nd and 10 I don't know, around or inside the Raiders 25 with a chance to try and get into the end zone and win this game. This would be, I mean, as improbable as the Monday night win for the Buccaneers was, this would be 100 times more improbable because it's not Tom Brady authoring it. It's Baker friggin' Mayfield. Oh, my goodness. The game that saves the Rams season. There you go. Oh, my God. He threw a touchdown. Oh, my God. That's insane. I can't even believe it. Baker Mayfield drives him 98 yards in 2 minutes to win the game. I mean, come on. You cannot script the NFL. You cannot possibly script this league. I mean, Baker Mayfield left on the scrap heap of NFL quarterbacks. I mean, my God. And the ball he threw for the tying touchdown, they need the extra point to take the lead. And a timeout was taken by the Raiders to try and ice the kicker for the extra point. The ball he threw to win it just now, potentially win it, was as good a pass as you can throw. This guy's been with the team for 2 days. I mean, I swear to God, if people could see me right now, my head's like ready to explode. This is nuts. But Brian, that was with a preseason. That's with a training camp. That's with getting to know your teammate. He's been there for 5 minutes. He walked in off the street. Is the extra point good? It is. Extra points good. I mean, it is the most unlikely scenario you will see ever. And that's not being hyperbolic. That's nuts. Like, this was a desperation. And they're and I mean, even better, the only team that claimed him off waivers was the Rams. They're the only team that put in a claim on this guy. And he just led them to one of the most improbable victories you will see this entire NFL season. This makes Brady and what the Bucs did on Monday night look like child's play. That's insane if this score holds and this is how it ends. That is nuts. I can't wait to hear the postgame, which you will hear on this show. Whew. 1-800-224-2004. I don't know if any of you have seen it or want to talk about it. 1-800-224-2004. That is nuts. Yes. Yep. I mean, it's virtually the same thing that happened the other night with Brady and the Buccaneers, only it's Baker Mayfield. It's Baker Mayfield, who the Carolina Panthers said, you suck too much to play for us. They'd rather have PJ, don't call me Jimmy Walker, and Sam Darnold. Wow. I can't get over it. I can't. There's so many ways to talk about this story that just, again, it blows your mind. This is why, and you know, this is why we watch sports. This is why we do what we do. This is why I host a sports talk show. For moments like this, not to talk about Aaron Rodgers being a conspiracy theorist or Micah Parsons being a dope and going after Britney Griner when she gets back on the field. But for stories like this, Baker Mayfield doing this in this moment, game over. Carr throws an interception to end it. My God, if he was crying on the podium after week 10, I can only imagine what he's going to do when he gets up on the podium after they lose this game. Wow. I've seen some crazy stuff in my life. And if you had the Raiders and are on the losing side of the bet, my God, I feel bad for you. And that's the worst loss ever. And if you had the Rams, if you were dumb enough to take the Rams tonight and had them on the right side of this, then, man, all the power to you, because you need to take a break from gambling, because the gambling gods just gave you one. The gambling gods just gave you one, man. Well, I've said this, and look, they're obviously not going to the playoffs. They're 3-9, they're 4-9. If they finish the year, if they won out, they'd go 8-9, and that's not going to get it done in the NFC, as we know. But here's the two things it does. I talked about this on the show yesterday or the day before when Mayfield was claimed on waivers by the Rams. I said there's an opportunity to do something almost like what happened with Geno Smith. I don't think Matthew Stafford's playing that much longer. I don't think he's playing more than a couple more years. Maybe you're his backup. He gets injured all the time. Maybe you're the backup there, and you kind of get a Geno Smith sort of chance, and you get I mean, that's one thing. The other is, and again, not being hyperbolic, what he just did to win that game, if they let him go or he's done at the end of the year, teams are going to, I guarantee it, teams are going to look at that and say, we can win. There's somebody out there. There will be some clown of a GM who will say, hey, we don't have a draft pick. We can't get a quarterback in the draft. Who will go and get Baker Mayfield just based on that. They'll say, he can win. We can do it with Baker. I'm telling you, I'm out of my mind right now with this. That is unbelievable. That's what I'm saying. I mean, there's no way you can't look at that. And look, some people might want to say it's a one-off, it's luck. He did have one big year in Cleveland. Hell, there were people. What, that was the year Cleveland made the playoffs, right? Well, the year after, but there was, it wasn't his rookie year, the year after, but the year after they made the playoffs, there were people picking the Browns to come out of the AFC. That's how high they were on that team. Thank you. That's actually really good because I love to stick it to the Lamar Jackson nuts. I'm telling you, my mind is blown right now. As many as Dak Prescott too. And this, I mean, we could keep going. I keep busting you up like this all night. Wow. So the Rams go to 4-9. The Raiders season basically just ended. They died on the patient is dead on the table because they dropped to 5-8. That is as tough. You'd won 3 in a row. You get that one, you're 4 in a row. And at 5, let's see, they would have been 6-7 with the Patriots next week. That would have been winnable, 7-7. The Steelers, after that, they with 2 weeks left in the season, they could have been 8-7 with the 49ers and Chiefs to finish. And granted, it was a long shot that they were going to win out, but they were there. They had it there for them. Oh, listen, when the season's done, when they do the autopsy on the dead patient on the table, I mean, there's so many they're going to look at. The Chiefs. Listen. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of their games are by 7 or less. 6 of their 7 losses are by 7 or less. I mean, no, I'm sorry, make that 7. So 7 of their 8 losses are by 7 or less. And a bunch of them are literally final drive. I mean, and again, you can look at it one of two ways. Law of averages says that's not going to happen next year. We win those games. And the other part says your head coach is a bumbling fool, and you can't close the deal. That is it Charlie Weiss? Is it a Charlie Weiss sort of thing? Yeah. Yeah, but Romeo was that anybody in Cleveland is doomed to fail. Well, wow. Like I said, I can't even come up with the words. I mean, that was I hate to use the word because I used it earlier in the show to describe what I felt when I heard Britney Griner was released from captivity in Russia today. But that was a breathtaking finish to that game. I mean, that is just wow. No, remember when he was doing the progressive ones or the Browns? Wow. Oh my goodness. Well, at least they could take their time bringing back Matthew Stafford now. Pizza! 1-800-224-2004, 800-224-2004 on Twitter at the back page. This is one of those moments, by the way. I love this. This is great. Somebody just put this meme up and said how fans will be describing Baker Mayfield for years to come. You'll appreciate this.
He was special.
Thank you, Vince McMahon. We'll come back and talk some more about this game. Later in the hour, Jackie Powell will join us from the Next to talk about Britney Griner and what is next in the life and career of Britney Griner, and also talk about how the WNBA really deserves props for how they've handled this whole situation. We will have complete post-game. God, I can't wait to hear from Baker Mayfield, Josh McDaniels, Derek Carr, Sean McVay, everybody. Stick around. We got more to do. The Cash In on SportsMap Radio. I love that Vince McMahon meme. Yes. He was special.
Touchdown! 2nd and 10. Mayfield to the end zone to Jefferson. Is that possible? Touchdown! 2nd and 10. Mayfield.
Oh, that's amazing. Only thing missing was Al Michaels saying, "Do you believe in miracles?" Oh my God.
Mayfield to the end zone to Jefferson. Is that possible? Touchdown. This is impossible.
I'm playing that when we come back.
To Jefferson.
I'll play it after the rejoin. Yeah, it's a really good call. There's been people getting on Al about him not having his fastball. Yeah, the extra point, the field goal that was short last week. Yeah, that was a good call. I think you have to. Like, it's crazy. Yeah, I want to put the 2 interviews too. Yeah. Yeah, that's fine. $22 of $35, $230.
Second and 10. Mayfield to the end zone to Jefferson. Is that possible? Touchdown. This is impossible.
You aren't kidding. Al Michaels with the call. Wow. And a great call by Al. He's gotten some grief this year. If you're going to say, if you're going to knock him when he gets one wrong, on a field goal because he's looking at the video monitor instead of looking out at the field and seeing that the kick is shorter off the crossbar, you got him credit. That was a good call. In a big moment, late in the game. He didn't fall asleep at the wheel on that. Baker Mayfield's game-winning touchdown in the closing seconds leads the Rams to an improbable victory. It pretty much ends the playoff hopes of the Raiders, who had won 3 in a row, 17-16 the final. He throws for 230 yards and a touchdown, and about 120 of it was in the final 5 minutes. And they were just talking to him. I only had a chance to catch a second of it in the postgame, but they were just talking to him in the postgame about how did you pick it up so quick? I mean, you had 2 days. There's no way you could pick up a playbook in 2 days. And he said it was more about just concepts, keeping it simple and talking about offensive concepts and the things he likes to do. And they simplified it. And I mean, look, let's be honest. This isn't, to the layperson and to the guy watching football who, played in his backyard with his friends, it's a lot more complicated than that. But a lot of these offenses, a lot of these teams run the same stuff. They just have different names for it all. So they were able to, some way, somehow, figure out a way to make this thing simple enough. And I'm not saying because Baker's dumb. It's just he had 2 days, 3 days to figure out what the hell he was doing with this team. And that is, man, in a weird NFL season, you just saw something really weird if you caught the end of that game. What a win for the Los Angeles Rams. And again, look, it means nothing for their playoff aspirations. They're not making the playoffs. There were more Raider fans in that stadium at SoFi tonight than there were Rams fans. But that is as crazy a win as you will see. 1-800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. Did you see the end of the game? I want to hear from you. If you're having issues getting through, hit me up on Twitter at the back page. I've had a couple people say they had issues getting through. Brian, check the phones. All right. I'm just making sure because somebody texted me and said they couldn't get through. I'm just making sure you know. But what a wild ending to that game. We'll be joined coming up in 8 minutes on really the big story of the day leading up to this NFL game. And that was the return of Britney Griner to the United States in a prisoner swap. That happened early on Thursday morning. We'll get into that coming up in about 8 minutes with Jackie Powell from The Next. See what she has to say and add to the dialogue after really a day that I don't know if anybody could have envisioned and a lot of people had hoped for, but certainly nobody could have anticipated it would actually happen, and that is Britney Griner coming home very cool. So Jackie Powell will join us, formerly of Bleacher Report, SI Now. She's covered women's basketball, covers the New York Liberty, and she's with The Next. So we will talk with her coming up in about 7 minutes and get some thoughts with her on this great day, not just for Britney Griner, not for just for the WNBA, but for the country, that we're getting one of our own home. And for everybody who wants to sit there and think they know something, or they should have brought back Paul Whelan too, and that would have been great. It wasn't an option. And faced with the option of bringing home Britney Griner or bringing home nobody, they chose to bring Britney Griner home. And if you've got a problem with that, go look in the mirror. The problem is you. Simple as that. As Brian pointed out, a lot of people on social media right now are just crushing the Raiders. Most losses, how about this one? You ready? Most losses, Josh Dubow of the Associated Press tweets this out. He says, most losses by a Raiders coach when leading by double digits at halftime. Tom Flores, 3 in 136 games. John Gruden, 3 in 117 games. Art Shell lost 4 in 108 games. Josh McDaniels, 4 in 13 games with the Raiders. That's just brutal, man. It's a tough sport. It's a tough sport. Whew. Listen, the 3-game winning streak I thought might have saved his job, even if they had lost a couple. If they had gone like 7-10 or 8-9, which they still might, it may save his job. He may still wind up keeping his job. Listen, we've talked about this on the show, and we've had guests that talked about it. I can't remember the Raiders beat writer that joined us. Were you with me the night that we tried getting him on like 3 times? And it was probably Belmer. But we had a beat reader. Vic Tafer, that's who it was. Man, my brains are mashed potatoes, but every once in a while they'll come through. Vic Tafer covers the team for The Athletic. And he said, Mark Davis is not going to pay this guy to sit on the sidelines for however many years he's under contract, to sit, in the broadcast booth. They're not going to do it. You cannot. They're already doing it with Gruden. They're still working out whatever the settlement is that's going to pay him for his time. They're not going to do this with Josh McDaniels. They're not going to do it. So that's the thinking. So it sounds like barring and even Mark Davis has said, hey, Rome wasn't built in a day. And apparently it hasn't been built through the first 14 weeks of the NFL season. Built it in 2 days. Well done. Oh, I missed you. All right. Stick around. We're coming back. Jackie Powell from The Next will join us. We'll get some thoughts with her on the safe return of Britney Griner, one of the great stories of the day, one of the best stories we've had to cover since we started doing the show. More to do on the Cash In on SportsMap Radio. That was a great line. Dude, they're still talking, damn. This is the longest post-game interview ever. No, he's still on the Prime Video post-game. They've had him up there since we were in the last break. And that's awesome. I'm happy for him. I really am. Rolling along on this Thursday edition of the show, and with all the bad news. Absolutely. Let me know when I have a minute left. We had a minute yet? All right, thank you. Thank you for being with us on this Thursday edition of the show. The telephone number, 1-800-224-2004. We'll get back to calls in the next hour because we got to talk about that crazy ending to the football game. Could tweet at us as well, at the back page. Hit me up on Twitter, at the back page. The big story of the day is obviously the safe return of Britney Griner back to the United States after a prisoner swap between the U.S. And Russia. The U.S. giving up a convicted arms dealer back to the Russians, and Britney Griner is coming back to the U.S. And I don't know if there's, outside of some crazy conservatives that decided to try and hijack this story on social media and use it for whatever nefarious means they have. I don't know too many people who are unhappy with the outcome of this story, an outcome that was in doubt for a lot of people for so long. And as I pointed out at the top of the show tonight, I think the WNBA as an entity, the players, the coaches, the Players Association, the commissioner, they all deserve so much credit for what they did in keeping this story front and center the way they did. I wanted to bring in Jackie Powell tonight, thenexthoops.com. She is also on Twitter at ClassicJPow. It's a very cool name, by the way. And she joins us on the program tonight. Jackie, I asked this question. I had Shalise Manzi-Young from Yahoo Sports on in the first hour to talk about this story for a few minutes. I wanted to talk about it more at length with you. But I'll ask you the same question I asked her to start, and that is, what was your reaction when you woke up this morning, or maybe you were already awake and the story crossed? What was your literally the first thing you thought of?
I didn't think it was true. That was my first reaction. I got a text from my dad telling me, I think if I were to look it up, it was something like, Britney Griner is free. And I was like, no, that can't be true. And then he was like, turn on CNN. And then the whole thing unfolded for me. And I probably did not take my eyes away from the channels of CNN and MSNBC and then ESPN and flipping back and forth and trying to take in all of the different voices that were coming on to news programs to talk about this.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. My experience was a little different in that, because I wake up in the morning and we just added a TV to our bedroom, which we didn't have in there. We only had one in the living room. So normally I would go and, just turn on the TV. But instead, I saw the news in an alert on my phone because I'm on the West Coast. I may not have told you that, but I'm on the West Coast. So I woke up and the news had already broken. So rather than turning on the TV, I made the mistake of opening Twitter first. And that's see, you know it. That's the worst thing you could do, because I opened up Twitter and, the first thing I see is like Micah Parsons of the Cowboys saying, what? They brought her home and they left a Marine there? And then he had to come and sort of wind that back because he realized that the information he had wasn't really relevant to Paul Whelan coming back. So my first mistake was going down the rabbit hole, the cesspool rabbit hole that Twitter can sometimes be in these sorts of situations. And I was shocked by what I saw in terms of how many people had a negative reaction. And they're those loud trolls on Twitter. But I think as a whole, the country is obviously thrilled, as we all are, that she's safely back in the U.S. But I want to talk about it from a standpoint of the WNBA. Kathy Engelbert talked about it today. Was there anything you gleaned from what she had to say in terms of her reaction today to the news?
I think you saw a more vulnerable Kathy Engelbert. I've been in many a press conference with Kathy Engelbert since she has assumed the role as WNBA commissioner circa summer of 2019. And Kathy is very calculated when she speaks, and that's not a bad thing. I think that is just more representative of what her role is and what she knows that she needs to do. And obviously she has a business background. She's the former CEO of Deloitte. And what I noticed was her willingness to be vulnerable and she even said to us, she said, yeah, I wrote, my statement was my statement. I meant every single word of what I said. She felt the need to express that to us. And she even was willing to explain to us how involved she had been in the past 9 months in all of this. Her letter exchanges with Britney Griner, or as many call her BG. She also, Kathy Engelbert, described what her last 24 hours were like. She was up last night waiting for something to happen. She had known, and she was up, and then she realized that the news or whatever could have been coming wasn't going to come. And what also stood out to me was at the top of what she had to say, she made it very clear that the league is going to be giving Britney Griner and her family and her wife Sherelle the appropriate space that they need. It seems clear to me that message has been communicated not only to the league, but to media in general, as that's what seems to be coming from TJ Quinn from ESPN, who has done absolutely vital reporting on this entire ordeal. And Kathy Engelbert was quite frank about it, in that she sort of said, a lot of our players are anxious to see her. A lot of the coaches really want to see her, but there's going to be a waiting period. There's going to be a medical physical that goes on right after she arrives at the Army base in Texas. And then even after that, I'm sure there's going to be a period of psychological reflection and healing. Who knows when her former teammates and even current teammates, players, coaches will get to see her and talk to her, because she needs time and space to heal.
I'm guessing it's up to BG. It's up to Britney in terms of she's going to move at her pace, and it's great that they're going to give her the space to do that. Can I ask this is going to come across as a silly question in the midst of all this, but it popped into my head, so I want to make sure I ask this. Are they, and I don't even know how much this matters, so I'm almost reluctant to ask it, but was she still being paid? Like, did the Phoenix Mercury ever do anything with that, or ever say, hey, we're going to make sure she's still compensated while she's incarcerated? Was anything ever done with that? Was anything ever adjudicated with that?
That is a great question. What I happen to know is the league did make an exception. Britney Griner was on their books for the 2022 season. When it got a little tricky was just when the rest of the Phoenix Mercury salary cap was a bit unclear. But what was clear was that Britney Griner got her entire salary. But when it came to sometimes when players would get injured, and so there's this system in the WNBA, when you have under 10 players that are healthy, you can get what is called a hardship.
Sure.
And so when it came to the Mercury getting hardships, and they also had a player, they had Kia Nurse, who was on their books as well, but she didn't play because she was recovering from an ACL injury. There were a lot of, I guess, pieces to their puzzle that weren't always very clear. But when it came to BG, she was paid.
And I just wanted to make sure that was clear, because I would think they would do the right thing in that spot, but in this day and age, who the hell, I take nothing for granted. I want to ask you a question. It's a bit speculative, but I talked about it in the last hour too. I wonder aloud if this changes the course of her life. She's 32. She's played a lot of basketball over the years. And again, she's had pain management things that she's had to do with, which is why she had this vape pen to begin with and all of that. So I wonder if she really even wants to play much longer. And if this experience is something, and again, we're just speculating because nobody's heard from her, if this is something that takes her down the road of wanting to do more advocacy on this issue of getting political captives, people held captives, political prisoners around the world, or whether, what's her desire going to be to play basketball? And I don't know if anybody knows that, but I think it's an interesting question.
So when it comes to her playing status and her, I guess, future as a professional basketball player, I have no idea. I really don't know. But I think what I have a little bit more of an insight on is what you were alluding to when you were talking about her potential future as an advocate for those that are unrightfully detained abroad. And I think because I covered BG during the 2021 playoffs, the last time, and the WNBA finals in 2021. That was the last time we saw her on a court in the United States, on a basketball court. And the sense that I got from her in talking to her during shoot-arounds and practices is that she's a very giving person of her time, and she's very thoughtful when you ask her a question. And so what I also gleaned from her wife's press conference this morning with the President of the United States and the Vice President was that Sherelle has the intention to continue to advocate on behalf of Paul Whelan and his family. And Sherelle felt very much taken in by the community of families that have loved ones abroad that are unrightfully detained. And so this idea of the community that Sherelle Griner was able to have from this experience, I think that's going to affect Britney as well. And that's going to make her feel something as well. And so that I am much more comfortable speculating on when it comes to her future advocating on this issue. I mean, before any of this happened, Britney was known to conduct a shoe drive every single year in Phoenix. She would collect used or new, in good condition, of course, shoes and sneakers for kids in the more impoverished areas in Phoenix so that they could have shoes to wear or that they could play basketball if they wanted to. Something that is so much, has always been a part of her life, has been giving. And so it is my hope that although she has been through such a trauma and such a tragedy, that desire to give hasn't left her.
Jackie Powell, thenexthoops.com, covers the Liberty and the WNBA. I really want to say thank you for coming on tonight. There's a lot of people that want to talk about this, and I'm thankful we were able to get you on and get your insights. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me, Jason.
We'll come back and wrap up the hour next. All right. We are all done with hour number 2. Well, we will be in a few minutes. The telephone number is 1-800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. Thank you to Jackie Powell for joining us from the nexthoops.com. And again, you can check out her work over at Classic. She's on Twitter, ClassicJPOW. So thank you to her for hanging out with us tonight, especially when she was on the East Coast, which means she came on the show at 11:40 p.m. Eastern live. So I'm very grateful for that. Next hour, we've got your complete post-game coverage on this Thursday night football thriller. I mean, one for the ages in terms of the way it ended. It really was pretty boring for 54 minutes. It got really exciting in the last 6. We will hear from Josh McDaniel, who just left the podium a short time ago. We've got his post-game sound all queued up. Derek Carr's post-game sound queued up. We will hear from Baker Mayfield. We will hear from Sean McVay. All of that coming up in the next hour of the show. So make sure you stick around for that. We also want to hear from you. 1-800-224-2004. What did you make of that finish? 800-224-2004. Hit me up on the Twitter at the back page. And I'll be curious to see what you guys think. What does it mean for Baker Mayfield's career? Is it just one game? Aberration? I think somebody's going to see that and say, hey, he could still play. There's no doubt in my mind. We're coming back. Final hour right around the corner on SportsMap Radio. Oh, man. Craziness. She was actually pretty good, too. A little long-winded, but she was good. Yeah. Sure. I wonder if you know what the funny thing is? I actually do have a friend. at WWE. He's like one of their head social media people. I should reach out to him. Yeah. Dude, I had a friend who said he called and could not get through. He said, try it again. He said, Tried again a few minutes ago. No pickup. Just tried again. That's really weird. So I've had a few times where this is an issue, where people are trying to call in and they can't get through. Tell me if it rings right now. That's me. Check the ringer on that thing or something. Do you have Telos? Are you guys using Telos? That was just now. Yeah, but you didn't hear it. Yeah. Well, keep an eye on it or try and check the ringer or something because I'll tell my buddy if he wants to call in. Final hour of a Thursday edition of the show. Boy, what a show it has been. Thanks for being a part of it. What a wild night. Crazy Thursday night football game. There were 3 NBA games tonight, by the way. San Antonio beat Houston 118-109. Miami beat the Clippers 115-110. So much for the Clippers getting back on track. And Denver leads Portland 105-104. 6:09 to go in the fourth. We didn't do anything with live betting tonight. But it's just been one of those weird nights where we were so engrossed in the Raiders-Rams madness and the Britney Griner story, which we got into, and talking about baseball salaries, which we were getting into earlier in the show, that, well, we just haven't done any live betting tonight. That's just the way it goes some nights. Yeah. So we're a show that's sort of just, I don't want to say, I don't ever want to make it sound like we're not planned. I write down things that I want to talk about in certain segments, but we're on at a time where there's so many different things going on that I have no problem adjusting and just sort of doing things on the fly. It's absolutely, and that's why scorecards have erasers. Absolutely. So Nuggets and Blazers 105-105. That game with 6:09 to go in the fourth quarter. And the total right now is 241.5. I would probably go under on that. Can we put that in? Can we put that in as a live bet? What do you say, Brian? Not too late, right? It's never too late. It's never too late. All right, let's go under. So 242.5 is the number. We're going to say under 242.5 on the Nuggets and Blazers. Under 242.5 with the score 107-106. That's our live bet tonight. That number's high for those two teams this late in the game. 242.5. We're going under. Okay. Post-game sound from Thursday Night Football. Josh McDaniels is on deck, along with Derek Carr. You'll hear from Baker Mayfield in this hour of the show as well, after a crazy win. It's the Cash-In on SportsMap Radio. All right. All right. Thursday Night Football goes to the Rams, one of the more unlikely comebacks you will ever see on the heels of that wild Monday night finish with the Buccaneers and Saints. Mayfield drives the Rams down the field for 2 touchdowns in the final 5 minutes to give the Rams an improbable 17-16 win over the Raiders and pretty much dash any remaining hopes that the Raiders had of making the postseason. I can't even imagine what's going through the mind of that Raiders locker room. But guess what? We're about to find out. Let's hear from Josh McDaniels, the head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders after a 17-16 loss.
Obviously disappointing, but credit to Sean and his group. They obviously, played hard and made one more than we did. Thought we had opportunities, obviously, to help close the game out, but certainly didn't do enough. So none of us did enough. So obviously we don't have much margin for error now, and we'll go back to work and try to fix some of the things that we didn't do right. Yeah, go ahead, Sean.
Josh, it seems like you guys were conservative on offense, kind of some key moments. Why did you guys sort of lean towards being safe in some of those key moments?
What are you referring to, meaning?
Some of the fourth down decision-making, maybe red zone.
Well, I mean, we had, we threw the ball in the red zone, and, they've played good red zone defense. Thought we had a few opportunities, but again, it's a good defense, and they made a couple plays in the red area that we didn't. In a game like that, I thought the defense was playing well, and there was a couple fourth downs where field position was involved, certainly, and made a couple decisions, the decision to obviously, put it up 16-3, and then the decision to not go for it on 4th and 1 or something like that late in the game. Thought AJ had a heck of a punt down there, put it at the 2-yard line, and then, penalties and the couple big plays, obviously they drove the ball, so.
John, I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, Honey.
On the play where you kicked the field goal to go up, you had 16 points then. I want to go back to that third down.
Yep.
I think it was 3rd and 7, and one of the options was a route short of the flag. I understand. Can you
Who
talk?
did you throw it to? The Josh, maybe?
I don't remember who. I
Okay.
apologize for
I think we had most everybody past it.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And I think they kind of played a little bit of a, if I'm not mistaken, I think they played a type of zone defense and took away some of our options that were past the stick. And I think Derek ended up checking the ball down to JJ. I'd have to see it, Hondo, just in terms of the whole film and everything else.
Thank you.
Josh, when the winning streak coming into this game, winning 3 straight, it seemed like the team had sort of figured something out and gotten past sort of being capable of this type of performance. Is there any explanation why you think they took a step back in this game?
I don't look at it as a step back. I mean, we didn't finish the game. That's the reality. I thought we were ready to play. I thought we competed. We got off to a decent start, and then we just didn't capitalize. And the bottom line is until we figure out how to stop losing games with mistakes that we do ourselves, then it makes it very difficult to win. And so you can't really win until you stop from losing, and that's penalties, turnovers, things like that contribute to that. And so we've talked a lot about that. We obviously need to do a better job of coaching it and trying to get us to play better.
Yeah, I mean, you get 2, and look, that's Josh McDaniels on the podium a short time ago. And he's right. It's the mistakes. It's the 2 penalties on that drive. You get a pass interference, then you get a unsportsmanlike conduct for taunting the quarterback after you sack him, and you could have had them in a position where they were in all sorts of trouble on that drive. And instead, I mean, you wind up with what you got there, and that's Baker Mayfield giving him opportunities and him driving down the field and winning the game. And also say this. I mean, the parallels between this game and what happened Monday night are, it's almost identical. I mean, the same final score, same type of comeback in the final 5 minutes, and the same sort of scenario in terms of a team not being able to get the ball into the end zone. I mean, Daniel Carlson hit field goals from 31 and 36 yards tonight. You know what that means? Your team got into the red zone or right around it and could not put the ball in the end zone. Could not finish drives. And some of that's got to go on the offense. And look, Derek Carr tonight was not good. I mean, 11 of 20 for 137 yards and 2 interceptions in a game your team has got to have. I mean, Derek Carr's got to take a hit here. Josh Jacobs ran it for 99 yards and a touchdown. Devontae Adams is Devontae Adams. But, I mean, Derek Carr's got to be better than that in that spot. You've got to get touchdowns. And when you put up a bunch of field goals, you're always leaving open the possibility of something like this happening. And we've seen it now in back-to-back primetime games. Ben Skowronek, by the way, is starting to come into his own a bit. I was wondering, remember, I think it was last year? Or the year before? Last year in the Super Bowl. Didn't he drop a touchdown pass in the end zone? If I'm not mistaken. Like wide open, and he dropped a touchdown pass in the end zone. They obviously wound up winning the game, so who cares? But I just remember that. And 7 catches tonight for 89 yards. He's coming into his own. I think he's out of Notre Dame. I got an autographed card of his. That's the only reason I know that. but certainly coming into his own. All right, here's what Derek Carr had to say after this devastating loss.
Derek, what happened tonight? What do you think? I'm not asking you to throw anybody under the bus, just sincerely, what happened?
Yeah, as a team, we just didn't finish the game the right way. It's NFL, it's going to be close, it's going to be tough sometimes, and this was one of those games where I think in the red zone we didn't execute how we should have. We left some plays out there and some points out there, and then at the end of the game, I just didn't think we finished it how we could have finished it to win the game, and not even have to put the defense out there or anything like that. We just didn't execute.
This is the fourth double-digit lead this team has lost. Is it a pattern that's happened, or is it different with each loss?
No, it didn't feel that way, if I'm honest. It didn't feel like something like, here it goes again or anything. It didn't feel anything like that. At the end of the day, it's football, and you're going to turn the film on and you're going to see, that's why that happened, or that's why that happened. And, coaches will correct it, and it sucks, man. No margin of error. It's tough.
Derek, obviously, this is a talented team. You have to be to build those leads. Why do you think there's been that disconnect in, being able to build those but not being able to finish them, given, the talent that you all have?
Yeah, I'm not sure on this one because I'd have to watch it, and once you watch it, it tells a lot. For me, it didn't feel, out of place, or something didn't feel off or anything like that. I felt like, we had a good control of what we wanted to do, and I really think it just comes down to the execution of the plays. Some of the stuff that hurt us in past games, that's just what it came down to at the end.
Offensively, it seemed like you guys kind of were having a more conservative approach today, a lot of runs, in red zone, settling for field goals, things of that nature. Wanted you guys to be more aggressive in some of those moments, given the success you've had the last few weeks on offense?
Yeah, I'm not sure. That's a better question for Josh. Whatever's called, we're trying to execute at a high level. There's times where there's run and pass checks and different things based on looks that we get and all that kind of stuff. So sometimes things can end up that way too. But for me personally, whatever Josh is calling, we're just trying to execute that and make it happen.
And as you said, it's pretty much no margin of error. You could have said that coming into this one. Does that make it more frustrating to see some of those kind of small mistakes, whether it be penalties or other things that kind of contributed to this loss?
Yeah, absolutely. It hurts. It hurts, but we put ourselves in that position, right? We won, however many games in a row, but it doesn't mean you win the next one. And you try and talk about it, preach about it, work so that doesn't happen. But it happened to us today, and it's hard. It's tough, but we put ourselves in that position. It's nobody else's fault.
Derek Carr, after the loss for the Raiders, 17-16, they dropped to 5-8. They win out, they'd go 9-8. I suppose they'd have a shot to still make the postseason, but when you look at the fact that I think they have the Niners and Chiefs still left on the schedule, their season's pretty much over with this loss tonight. And Derek Carr just wasn't good tonight. There's just no getting around it. 11 of 20 for 137 yards, 2 interceptions. And by the way, if you bet on Derek Carr to throw an interception tonight, that was going off at minus 120, you're a winner because he threw 2 of them. Oh, boy. And Twitter's let him have it, too. As you would imagine, as you would expect in that sort of situation. 1-800-224-2004 is the phone number. 800-224-2004 if you've got thoughts on this crazy game tonight. Baker Mayfield is the story, and we will hear from him coming up here in just a couple of minutes. Post-game sound from the Rams side of things. 17-16, they win it in dramatic fashion at SoFi Stadium. Stick around. More post-game to do. If you've got thoughts on this game, I want to know what you thought. 800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. I'm Jason Page. This is The Cash In on SportsMap Radio.
nice to meet you.
Oh, nice meeting you guys, too.
What have the last 3 days been like for you, Baker?
It's been...
Well, nice to meet you.
Oh, nice meeting you guys, too.
What have the last 3 days been like for you, Baker?
Yeah. Yeah, we need to get that off. That promo is completely dated. Right. It was as good a finish as you could imagine. I just still can't even put it into words. Rams beat the Raiders 17-16, about as Raiders type of a loss as you will ever see. In fact, here's Al Michaels, who had the call of the game-winning touchdown. Take a listen on Prime Video.
2nd and 10. Mayfield to the end zone to Jefferson. Is that possible? Touchdown. This is impossible.
Yep, certainly was. Baker Mayfield authored the impossible. The only thing missing from that call was, do you believe in miracles? Yes. It was the only thing missing. Baker Mayfield for president. Baker Mayfield wow, I'm lost for words. Baker Mayfield met with the media a short time ago. They asked him what the last few days have been like.
It's been pretty hectic. It's been a lot of emotions, to be honest with you. A lot of things that, some tough decisions. But everything happens for a reason, I'm thankful that just prayed about it and it worked out, right now I just got a lot of emotions, but I'm really, really blessed and I'm really thankful right now, especially just the guys here that welcome me in and help me, do the crash course here. Obviously, Liam, Zach, and Sean helping me do that when I walked in, and Matthew helping out as well, and John and Bryce. It's just, thankful for that.
Considering how you got here, is there something cathartic about winning like that? Not just winning, but winning in a big way like that.
Yeah, I don't know if you can write it any better than that. Obviously, we'd like to be a little bit more stress-free, but it's a pretty damn good story, I'll be honest with you. So it's special.
Your hat says not my first rodeo. How much did you have to lean
That was my first rodeo doing that, I'll say that. Yeah.
How much did you have to lean on your experience in a game where you got the playbook 2 days before?
Yeah, a lot. When it comes to critical situations and kind of, those crucial downs, especially when the clock's rolling like that, just putting the ball up for guys like that and knowing the clock mechanics. I had Brian Allen screaming in my face what the cadence was for that because we didn't cover it, and Sean's yelling in my ear as well. And but yeah, ball is ball, and it's when you have guys like that around you, they put you in a good spot and they help you out, and those guys did it.
What goes through your mind when you throw that game when you touched on Van Jefferson? I'm guessing somebody you just met this week.
No, Van and I go back. I'm not very happy with Van until now. I was trying to get him to come to Oklahoma. He wouldn't text or call back. He owes me one. And He got me right there. So I was messing with him about that when I first got here. But seeing the coverage, and I was truly shocked. They pressed him up with 15 seconds left, knowing that we didn't have any timeouts left. He did a great job winning off the line of scrimmage and going and make a play. So that was just to put it up for him and make a play.
Speaking of Oklahoma, have you heard from Lincoln Riley in the past 24 hours?
Told him he's probably going to have another Heisman Trophy winner here coming up this weekend. So, I talked to him briefly, hoping that, now I got some time off a little bit, learn the playbook a little bit more, go see him when he gets back in town. And, he's just always been in my corner, always communicated when things are going on. He's had the message throughout the past few months of just stay the course, don't leave anything left unsaid, and just be proud of where you are, and walk out with your head held high. And he's always instilled that in me, and I'm thankful for him.
How much of a crash course was like? What's the crash course in terms of studying? How do you do that in that short time?
I used to not necessarily complain about the fact that I had that many different offensive systems and having to learn that, but it came in handy when having to learn a crash course and being able to relate certain things. And Sean's protection scheme is similar to Bill Callahan's, who I had in Cleveland. So the terminology with that knocks out a big chunk of the learning curve, and just trying to learn all the motions and the terminology for that. It's tough, but those guys did a great job of helping me out, communicating when I got off the field on the sideline and just talking about what the plays that are coming up. There was still definitely some looked like some rookie errors with formations and motions. Obviously, it hurt us late, but it worked out. But not having the timeouts to be able to call on defense, it came down to that 3rd and 1 stop. Defense did a hell of a job making that stop and giving us the ball back. So there's things that definitely need to be worked out, but those guys helped me out in this crash course.
I'll tell you, not for nothing, I'm rooting for Baker Mayfield. Saying all the right things. No bitterness or animosity or ha-ha towards Carolina after they kind of unceremoniously dumped him by making him the 3rd-string quarterback, which can't blame him for saying, hey, just release me if you're going to do that. And, signs of maturity. Not everybody comes into the league and is, Mac Jones in their first year and goes, 10-6 or 10-7 or goes to the playoffs, or is basically put in a situation where you're with a franchise that has stability and has a Hall of Fame head coach, or, comes into the league and can sit for a couple of years. Baker Mayfield never had any of those luxuries. I mean, you're drafted into the league by the Browns, and I'm not sitting here trying to apologize for Baker Mayfield's career. The numbers speak for themselves. The inconsistency speaks for itself. But you have to, when you do a full assessment and a full X-ray of the situation, you kind of understand, coming through and starting your career with the Browns during all the dysfunction that is Cleveland. And let's be honest, that's what it is. It always has been. Probably always will be, as long as you still have that same ownership team in place. That's kind of what happens. And you come out of that and you try to go to Carolina and start again. You get to Carolina, they fire their head coach, 6 weeks into the season? And you're playing on, they get rid of Christian McCaffrey. I mean, anybody who was expecting, Baker Mayfield, he's going to Carolina, he's getting another chance. He's getting another chance in Carolina. Okay, so instead of, both arms tied behind your back, now you only have one. Go out there and get us some wins, Baker. Oh, you didn't? Oh, you suck. You sucked in Cleveland. They got rid of you. No, you stunk in Carolina. You got nothing. I have said this a million times before. You can't help where you get drafted in this league. And sometimes that can set the tone for an entire career. And you see this stuff time and time again. I mean, how much different would Justin Fields' career have been if he was drafted to a different organization? I mean, what would have Josh Allen's career been if he was drafted by the Jets? Do you think he'd be the Josh Allen you see now? Hell no. You know that. Because he would have been with the Jets and all the dysfunction that was there prior to Robert Saleh. I mean, this is the stuff that happens. Geno Smith, drafted by the New York Jets. You can't help where you get drafted sometimes. Now, you could pull the old Eli Manning card and say, I'm not going to go play for a particular team, or the John Elway card and say, I'm not going to go play for a particular team. You can do that. Maybe if you're the top overall pick. But, I mean, this is kind of the hand you get dealt sometimes. And I credit Baker Mayfield because, some guys would just pack it in after you have these sort of experiences. And, look, he can get up there and say, some guys will say, I lean on faith. Everybody leans on something different. I'm not here to judge anybody for what they lean on to try and get through difficult times. But it takes something. You got to have something in you. There's something in you for you to be able to go through that kind of situation, that kind of hardship as a player. And again, I'm talking relative to sports before anybody says, that's not hardship. He's a professional athlete making tons of money. I'm not talking about that. So I give Baker Mayfield a lot of credit. Yeah. I just can't believe a guy walked in off the street 2 days after signing with a team and does what I'm telling you, you could watch football for another 20 years and not see something like that happen. It's true. It's honest. You can go another 20 years watching football and you'll never see something like that. That's just over the moon crazy. Just saying. According to Elias Sports Bureau, the Rams' 98-yard TD drive was the longest go-ahead TD drive that began in the final 2 minutes over the last 45 years. Sarah Barshop tweeted that out. Thank you, Brian, for getting that to me. All right. Shalise Manza-Young talks about Britney Griner and the Washington Commanders. That's next on The Cash In. She joins me on SportsMap Radio. Stay with us. Thanks for sending me that. It could have been. Oh, the steaks were so good. We went and looked, and for some reason the apple tartlet was not in the box, and even though it said it was supposed to be, but that's all right. I won't hold it against them. Could be. The dog might have eaten it. But we've now had the steaks. What else do we have? We've had the steaks, chicken breast, the sausages.
We had 2 kinds of steaks, right?
We had the filet and we had the New York strip. And tonight we've had the burgers. So we've sampled the goods. Oh God, the New York strip was so good. And they give you they don't give you have to buy it, but the seasoning stuff that they have, you can buy these seasonings. They're so good. I'm not going to tell you to go buy it, even though it would support my show and the ad campaign, because it's not cheap. But rolling along on this Thursday edition of the show, and with all the bad news that it feels like we're inundated with on a daily basis, It was so great to wake up on Thursday morning and the first alert on my phone, because again, I'm on the West Coast. So, you know, rolling along on this Thursday edition of the show. And, you know, with all the bad news that it feels like we're inundated with on a daily basis, it was so great to wake up on Thursday morning and the first alert on my phone, because again, I'm on the West Coast. So, you know, 3 hours of the day is usually done by the time I'm up and ready to walk the dog. No, even if it's 7 a.m., 7:30 a.m., it's already 10:30 a.m. on the East Coast. And by that time, Joe Biden had already spoken, and it was announced that Britney Griner was coming home in a prisoner swap with the Russians. It was a great way to start the day. And then I made the mistake of opening up social media. So I want to try and shine some light on this story. We did it. We'll be doing it in the second hour as well, strictly from the WNBA side of things. But I wanted to bring in Shalise Manzi-Young, who does a great job with Yahoo Sports. I also want to get her thoughts on what's going on with the Washington Commanders and the Congressional Committee and the news they put out, or the news they made on Thursday, talking about basically the obstruction of their investigation and how the NFL played a role in it. We'll get into all of that as well. Shalise, start with the Britney Griner story. This was a day all of us had been hoping for. Britney's coming home after nearly a year of being held as a political prisoner for what should have been a situation to be adjudicated quickly and painlessly. What was the first thing that went through your mind when you heard the news?
I was stunned. You know, Yahoo, of course, has news and finance, but in terms of the Slack channels that I'm part of in our, you know, our corporate Slack, I'm only part of sports channels. And I was driving home from dropping my girls off at school and saw a Slack notification that was just it was from the POTUS Twitter account, you know, the President of the United States. And I was like, why the heck are we putting POTUS in sports, right? And so I opened it just out of curiosity, and I saw it, and immediately my breath caught in my throat and tears came to my eyes. And I've only been around Britney once. I was fortunate enough to be in Tokyo last summer and covered the women's gold medal basketball game. And, you know, she came through the mix zone. So that's really only my only personal interaction with her. And it wasn't even personal really, but just, I've been so scared for her and for her family. And as a 6'9" Black queer woman in a country that has, you know, made being gay illegal, isn't really a big fan of Black people. I was just terrified for her. I really was. And so to see that news this morning, it was so unexpected for pretty much everybody except a very few people within the Biden administration. And I'm sure Britney's wife knew since she was in Washington, D.C., but it was just so incredible and such a relief to know that she's coming home. And then, like you said, I also made the mistake of going onto Twitter and called my husband, and he was like, nope, you were thrilled that they released her. Do not let these people take your joy. Don't let these people take your joy. Just hang on to it. And so that's what I tried to focus on.
Well, I gotta admit, I was surprised, and maybe I shouldn't be. Maybe I'm just an endless hopeful person. I don't know. I was surprised how much negativity there was on social media from conservatives in particular. And I thought you might get your fringe, pardon the phrase, yahoos. I thought you might get your fringe, yahoos out there doing their normal trolling. But there was a lot more negative rhetoric than I had expected. And it was, it was people saying things like, well, she kneeled during the anthem. She should go back to Russia, or the next time she does it, they should send her back. I was surprised. I mean, were you?
No, I'm a black woman. She's a black woman. It's almost mandatory that we have to do everything we can to help and uplift others. And, writ large, this country doesn't care about us. And because she is tall and queer and black, and she's, sort of gender fluid, she certainly does not fit a European standard of beauty. People didn't care, and also she expressed thoughts like kneeling and speaking up for black people, calling the same type of thing that lots of WNBA players speak up for. Colin Kaepernick has been outcast from the NFL for. And so, that whole, well, she broke the law. Like, come on, yes, she broke the law. But if you've ever rolled through a stop sign, you also have broken the law. And would you spend 10 years in a penal colony for rolling through a stop sign and think that was okay because, well, you broke the law? No. And other people in Russia have gotten caught with as much, weed oil as she has and paid a fine, and that's it. And they wanted to make an example of her, and they did.
I have to say, it made me, and not to go off too far on a field of what we're talking about, but I put up a Facebook post about it today, and I could have written much more than that. I probably could have written an entire column on it. It almost feels like in some regards we're irretrievably broken. Because you would think if there's one thing that could bring people together, it's, my God, we're getting one of our own home. And here it was. I don't know why I was expecting it, and it was nowhere to be found, and it made me profoundly sad when I saw that this morning. I don't know. Like I said, maybe I'm.
I think my dog feels the same way with all of that. No, there was a point today, and I've tried really, really hard to cut down on my Twitter usage because of things like this. And there was a point today where I was scrolling Twitter and I just started crying again because it was so much, as you said, like, oh, she should go back and, real verified, like actual human beings, not trolls, and they are trolls, and I use the term human being loosely for somebody like Seb Gorka, but, calling just the things that they said about her. And at the end of the day, she was in a horrible situation and she's home. And yes, of course our hearts break for Paul Whelan, but this is a both and situation. Yes, we would love to see Paul Whelan home with his family, but if the choice was between bringing home one American and bringing home no Americans, they brought home an American. But again, this is just another one of those days that highlights to black women that nobody has our backs.
Nope.
Even a two-time Olympic gold medal winning basketball player who, if you don't care about anything other than she brought, athletic glory to the United States on the global stage, you still have no use for her.
Do you think, and we're talking with Shalise Manza Young, Yahoo sports columnist, who I'd love to talk to on days like this, do you think she plays in the WNBA again? Because at 32, having played a lot of basketball in her life, and having gone through this sort of ordeal, I was wondering if this takes her in a different direction in life. Maybe towards advocacy for other political prisoners. Maybe she keeps playing and does both because it gives her the bigger platform. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
My very first thought is, I just want her to be okay. We don't know physically, mentally what she's gone through, how long it's going to take her to heal from whatever she's endured over 264 days, I think it was the final tally, 284 days. But the other thing to think about is she actually had a prescription that was legal in the state of Arizona. The oil that she was taking was for chronic pain. So if she already was in pain at 32 years old, maybe her body had already started breaking down. I mean, being 6'9" as a woman, that's really tough physically. So I hope we get to see her play maybe just one more swan song season so she can be celebrated around the league. But I would completely understand if she just doesn't want to or can't.
Yeah, I agree with you. Shalise Manza Young, our guest here in our 2-for-1 tonight on the show. On the Commanders in the NFL, House Congressional Committee released a scathing report. Basically says much of what we knew, the Commanders had a toxic workplace. Daniel Snyder knew it and allowed it. But it also implicates the NFL in trying to cover it up and suppress the information from an investigation into the matter. Was there anything that came out of the report that one way or another surprised you?
A little bit how much the NFL knew. I mean, I guess given how little faith I have that the NFL will ever do the right thing, I shouldn't be. But Roger Goodell, whenever he's in front of microphones, and I'm fond of calling it his, nighttime radio voice. DJs at night who are playing like yacht rock and stuff like that, and they come on, and that's the voice I think Roger Goodell uses. It reminds me of that. And whenever he stands there at the, Super Bowl State of the League press conference, or, the 2 or 3 other times he's in front of cameras, he just keeps telling, I'm the father of daughters and I have a wife and I care so much about this. No, you really don't. You just don't. You allowed Dan Snyder to negotiate his own punishment? Really? Who does that? You protected him and made it so that, Beth Wilkinson's report, hours and hours and hundreds of thousands of dollars that the league spent on that investigation or whatever it was, it was an oral report. It didn't have, none of it had to be written so that the public couldn't see it. And then you use the guise of, we promised the women, the participants who told their story, we protect them. Really? Like none of us understand Jane Doe and, those kinds of things. And there aren't ways to write about what these women endured without putting their names out there. And then within the report, apparently it's in the NFL's own handbook somewhere, that having a toxic workplace like that isn't against the personal conduct policy anyway. So you're telling players, owners, GMs, coaches, whoever, that you can treat women however you want. If it costs us money, we might punish you for it. Or if it brings us some negative press, we might punish you for it. But really, we don't care about women. Go buy a pink jersey. It's so... I've been over the league for a really, really, really long time, and it's gotten harder and harder to dedicate Sundays to this sport because the league, it's so gross and it's so unseemly, and they're not even, it feels like now they're not even trying. They're not even trying to pretend, like you banished Colin Kaepernick and then George Floyd is murdered in the middle of a street in broad daylight in Minneapolis. And then Goodell goes into his basement and says, we do believe Black Lives Matter. Oh, gee, thanks, Raj. We appreciate you saying that our lives have value. Yeah. But then what comes out a few months later is, they were doing race norming and telling Black retired players that, your brains might be broken, but your brains weren't worth a damn anyway because you're Black. And of course your brain wouldn't be worth nearly as much. And now you've dragged these women and made these women beg and plead, the women who used to work for Washington, beg and plead with anybody who will offer them a platform to talk about what they dealt with and what they endured. And you just shrug your shoulders and stand in front of the camera and say, we were trying to protect these women. No, you weren't. You're trying to protect Dan Snyder, who is a verifiably terrible human being and was a verifiably terrible human being before we knew that he did all of these things to the women in his workplace.
I'll finish with this because I only got about 30 seconds. I wish that some way, somehow, the antitrust exemption could be stripped. Because aside from that, I don't see anything that provides an impetus for change.
Right. And there's so many, they listen to the loud minority of people. Look what they did to Colin Kaepernick. Completely ignored the fact that there were plenty of military people who said they understood why he was doing what he was doing. But this loud minority of people, racist people, and now Colin Kaepernick had his career stripped of him. You know, and they listen, but look where a lot of them donate their money, you know, politically, and we get a big idea of why they do what they do.
Shalise Manza-Young, I always love these conversations. I always wish they were longer. I keep saying it. I would love to do more with you in the future. I always appreciate your time. Thanks for coming on tonight, and we'll talk again soon.
You bet. Have a great night.
We'll come back and wrap up the hour next. All right. College football award season has begun. USC quarterback Caleb Williams, big winner on Thursday night. 2022 College Football Awards night. He won the Walter Camp Player of the Year. Walter Camp is awesome. Go to that. Used to go to that event every year in New Haven. He was also winner of the Maxwell Award, which is given to the best all-around player in football. Harbinger of things to come? Is that your Heisman Trophy winner? What do you think? What do you think, Brian? Is that your Heisman Trophy winner? Williams, first USC player since running back Marcus Allen in 1981 to win the Maxwell, by the way. Horned Frogs took home some hardware as well. Safety Trevius Hodges Tomlinson won the Jim Thorpe Award, given to the top defensive back in the sport. Sonny Dykes won Coach of the Year and Walter Camp National Coach of the Year as well. Good job, Brian. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Thanks to all of you for listening. Thank you, Shalice Manza Young, as well as Jackie Powell. I'm Jason Page. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye! You got the podcast? You're good? All right. Love it. Thank you, dude. Have a great night. All right. Be well. All right. Bye-bye. Dun, 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 dun. All right. That wraps it up for us on the radio side. Thanks for watching on the video side. Love you guys as always. If you were trying to call in tonight, my apologies. We were having issues with the phone lines. For some reason, they could see when a call was coming in, but they couldn't hear it. So if Brian wasn't looking directly at the phone, he didn't know that it was ringing. So my apologies if you were trying to call in tonight and could not. That's the reason. We're back here tomorrow. Page's picks on a Friday. We're 27-25 on the season. That is better than 50%, which we will always sign up for. Hell of a Thursday night football game. Great day. Britney Griner is home. And tomorrow, we'll do it all again. 10 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. Thank you, everybody who listens and watches. I appreciate each and every one of you. We'll see you back here for a Friday edition of The Cash In on SportsMap Radio, Twitch, Facebook, everywhere else we are. Thank you for watching. Bye.